she's not investing of her own accord or volition. She's being guided and coached by her husband, who is absolutely a Wall Street shark.
It was a June full of some major new stock acquisitions and sales for Representative Nancy Pelosi and her husband. We're breaking down her stock picks and offloads with our MarketBeat analysts. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone. Many investors closely monitor stock picks by members of Congress, but Nancy Pelosi has long been in the spotlight for her stock choices. Chris, Thomas, before we get into her big moves happening this June, can you walk us through some of her recent investments that have made headlines?
Well, I think one of her biggest, most recent investments was her purchase of Palo Alto Networks back in February. She made two purchases, one right before the company released earnings and one right after. And I believe it was like a 25 or a 30% stock price implosion. So that second purchase, she bought on the dip. So that's her doubling down on a position she's already losing money on. I think that's pretty telling that they're expecting, her and her husband are expecting Palo Alto Networks to continue to improve over the coming years. And I think that's what we see in the Palo Alto Networks news. They've been leaning real hard into platformization and trying to solidify their leading position in cybersecurity. And I think that we've already seen some results as far as those efforts go.
Yeah, I mean, I looked through the list of stocks that the Pelosi's have been buying. They love the technology stocks. There's Microsoft in there. They've been doing some buying and selling of Apple, but by and large, they're doing more buying than they are selling right now.
Well, there's no surprise that we're going to talk about Nvidia quickly in this video, but Nancy Pelosi is sticking by her bet on Nvidia, buying even more shares of the company this past month, right?
Yeah, she did. And it's not a small trade. I wouldn't say that she's a super active trader, but she is certainly a whale when it comes to the Senate. She's making trades in the range of $1 million to $5 million, when a lot of other congressional members are making trades in the $10,000, $15,000 range. This is definitely a big deal coming from her.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind that this trade that she made in late June is not the first big trade that they've made on Nvidia. Back in November of last year, they bought deep call options on Nvidia before the stock split happened. So they've been capitalizing on this stock for quite a while.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The options they bought last year, I think the stock price went up 1,000%.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good amount of leverage that they've gotten on that position.
Now, a lot of investors have made a purchase in Nvidia this past summer. Do you think Pelosi's share purchase of the stock is surprising, or does it provide some other insights for investors at all?
I don't know that it's surprising, but it's kind of telling. You can see that when she bought in late June, they bought on the dip. That dip established a higher level of support, not just for her, but for the market in general. Analysts are still leading Nvidia higher. I think that the Pelosi's and the market in general are expecting Nvidia stock to continue rising this year.
All right, well, we still need to dive into Pelosi's other major June stock purchases, and we will. But first, here is a look at MarketBeat's tool that investors can use to track all congressional trades. Want to keep your finger on the pulse of the market? Text the word YouTube to 68285. That's 68285, and get free breaking news alerts from MarketBeat for the stocks that matter most to you. Don't miss out on crucial updates. Stay informed and stay ahead. All right, guys, let's get to the meat of why people are here. Pelosi's other major stock purchases in June, one of those is Broadcom. Chris, Thomas, just how significant of a purchase did she make in this company?
She purchased options on Broadcom with an exercise price of $800 and an expiration date of June 20th of 2025. Again, it doesn't say how many options they purchased or what the total amount of the purchase was, but that was that's the general gist of the trade.
Yeah, that's another one in the $1 to $5 million ranges. So it's another big trade. I think it's interesting because it's another chip stock. She's certainly playing the chip sector. She's playing AI. And with Broadcom, she's also playing Apple, which is also an AI play. So I see Broadcom as kind of this conglomeration of semis, AI, and Apple all wrapped up into one little bundle.
Now, one thing I was a little bit curious about is that Broadcom also recently announced a quarterly dividend that was paid out late last month. Do you think that has any role in Pelosi's decision to invest?
I mean, I'm sure it does, but it's not a huge dividend, and it's
Yeah.
not anything that's going to make somebody say, "Oh, I've got to have Broadcom versus some other dividend stock." But in the scheme of investing in these tech stocks, it may have played a role for them.
Yeah, I kind of think it's more along the lines of, I look back on the Nvidia purchase they made, and they did that before the split was announced. Now they do this with Broadcom before the split's announced. We can talk about what that might mean, and that kind of smells a little bit, but that seems to be where they're going here. They're playing the idea of getting into the stock before it splits.
Right. Let's not forget that I think it was Bank of America has done some research and shown that over time, stocks that split or companies that split their stock more than double
Yep.
the annual performance of the S&P 500.
Yep.
And you got to think that companies that are splitting their stock are doing it because there's demand for their stock, the prices are being pushed higher, and that's because they're good companies. You don't split the stock on a bad company. Those companies are doing reverse splits to support their price. They're not trying to bring their price down to make it more accessible like Broadcom has done.
Now, she's also made a couple of big stock sales in June, and we want to get to that. But before we talk about that, here is a quick look at our recent report on 20 stocks to sell now. Tired of guessing which stocks to ditch? MarketBeat's exclusive report, 20 Stocks to Sell Now, cuts through the noise. Uncover the truth behind Wall Street's ratings, as our list is curated from the stocks that top analysts consistently rate as hold or sell. Don't let your portfolio suffer. These 20 companies have been red flagged for a reason, so act now and safeguard your investments. This report is free, but only available for a limited time, so download today. All right, guys, let's get into Pelosi's two big stock offloads this last month. The first we're going to discuss is a big name in the EV world. What information do you have for us on that?
Yeah, she's selling Tesla. I think that from what Chris and I were talking about before, it looks like they're trimming a position that they bought years ago. And as we've been saying, the Pelosi's like to use a lot of options. So they bought some Tesla options years ago. They've exercised them. They're sitting on this position. Now they're trimming some profits, it looks like.
Now, does her Tesla sell-off, does this mean it's an indicator about the EV industry as a whole, or is it specifically a reaction to Tesla's recent moves?
I think it's mostly a reaction to Tesla's recent moves. They certainly have been having a struggle this year with sales, but they're turning a corner. They're teasing about having a cheaper model come out. And they've got some new technologies they're working on. So this recent rebound in the Tesla stock is more of a bet on Elon Musk, I think, more than Tesla. But we'll see how it goes.
All right, well, let's get to Pelosi's final market move in June. She's sold off 2,000 Visa shares. What are your thoughts on this move?
Just looking at the chart, I mean, it looks like she may have sold at the bottom. The right time, if you're going to say to sell, would have been in March, when it was at an all-time high, or even in May. But they've had a couple of other sales back in 2022 that didn't really correlate to any significant price movement. I'm not sure if there's any really big thing here other than they may have just been trimming a position. And it's a good reminder of why sometimes insider buying is more telling than insider selling, but that's what I could see.
All right. So this is a space where Chris and I are going to diverge in our opinions.
Okay.
I'm looking at the chart and I'm seeing a top. I'm seeing a significant sell-off just the last 2 or 3 weeks that took the market below the 30-day and the 150-day moving averages. What I'm looking at right now is a market top with a move below critical support, compounded by a death cross. I think Visa might be selling off. I think this might have been a very smart move on their part. I think if we consider the economic conditions right now and high inflation and high interest rates and the idea of higher for longer, consumer spending is getting pinched, and Visa is the king of consumer transactions. Your consumer transactions are going to start falling off, Visa's results are going to start falling off, and that would be a very great reason to sell the stock.
So you're saying instead of it being a bottom, where I was saying it looked kind of like a bottom, you're saying they're selling it before it goes even further
Yeah.
down.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not the bottom, but what I'm
Right.
seeing in the chart is a bearish setup that could lead
Okay.
to a much deeper sell-off.
Okay, good to know.
And then the speculation part being, consumers are being squeezed. We have inflation. We have high interest rates. Consumer spending hasn't really been robust. It's still expanding, but it's not really leading the retail sector. I mean, we have
Right.
volume declines are being offset by inflation right now still. So that's what I'm seeing.
Well, let's round out the conversation here about Pelosi's June stock picks. Can you guys give us just a little bit of perspective on how significant these several $1 million stock moves are, maybe when looking at the value of her entire portfolio?
Well, I think individually they're not very big. I mean, she's not investing of her own accord or volition. She's being guided and coached by her husband, who is absolutely a Wall Street shark. They're not going to be investing large positions. So without knowing the specifics, I would assume they're investing 1 to 3% of the portfolio on any one position, maybe less.
Right. I don't think whenever we're talking about these congressional trades, I'm not necessarily sure we're concerned so much about the how much, it's the who and what
Right.
companies they're trading in, because I think that's very, very telling as far as where they see the market moving. And there'd only be kind of one reason why they think the market's moving that way, is because they know where the government legislation is going to be and how the monetary policy is going to be.
That's a great point, Chris. And for a full look at how members of Congress are investing, check out the congressional data page on marketbeat.com. But for now, happy investing.